This story that seemed impossible actually happened to me. I was so shocked when it happened. Let me tell you about it. Come with me as we begin. I used to believe my parents loved me more than anyone else in this world. I trusted them completely. But they did something so terrible that it changed everything I thought I knew about family. I lost 15 job opportunities because of two people who were supposed to protect me. Before we dive into this story, tell me where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now let me take you back to where it all began, so you can understand why my own parents wanted to destroy my future. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business. My family looked perfect from the outside. We had a nice house on a quiet street with a big backyard and a white picket fence. My father, Donald, worked as a manager at a local insurance company for over 30 years. He was the type of man who believed his word was law in our household. Whatever he decided, that was final. No discussions allowed. My mother, Patricia, worked part-time as an accountant, but her real job seemed to be agreeing with everything my father said. I cannot remember a single time she stood up for me against him, not once in my entire life. Then there was my older brother, Kevin. He was 4 years older than me, and from the day I was born, it felt like I was living in his shadow. Kevin could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. When he barely graduated high school, they celebrated like he had won a Nobel Prize. When he decided to skip college and start a small business, they gave him money to buy a house and fund his startup. Nothing was too much for their golden boy. Me, I was different. I worked hard in school. I got straight A's. I earned a full scholarship to college. But none of that seemed to matter. When I brought home my acceptance letter, my father just nodded and said, "That is nice." No celebration, no pride in his voice. Just "that is nice," like I had told him the weather forecast. Growing up, every achievement I had was compared to Kevin. I won a writing competition in 8th grade, and my mother said, "That is wonderful, dear." But remember how Kevin won that football trophy? I graduated top of my class in high school, and my father mentioned that Kevin had more friends at his graduation. It was exhausting trying to earn love that seemed to flow so freely to my brother without any effort on his part. When I turned 18, everything changed. My parents sat me down and explained that I would need to pay for my own living expenses from now on. College tuition was covered by my scholarship, but rent, food, books, and everything else was my responsibility. I was confused because Kevin had never worked a day in his life at 18. He lived at home rent-free until he was 25. But when I asked about this, my father said that Kevin is different. He needs our support. You are more independent. So I worked. I worked part-time jobs all through college. I waitressed at a diner, tutored younger students, and worked weekends at a retail store. I barely slept. I studied between shifts. I ate cheap ramen noodles for dinner most nights. But I made it work. I graduated with a degree in marketing, a 3.8 GPA, and zero debt, because I had earned everything myself. After graduation, I had a decision to make. I could stay in my small hometown and take a job at my father's insurance company like he wanted. Or I could move to a bigger city and pursue my dreams of working in marketing at a real agency. The choice seemed obvious to me. I wanted more than what my small town could offer. I wanted to grow, to challenge myself, to build a career I could be proud of. When I told my parents I was moving to Columbus, about 2 hours away, they did not take it well. My father turned red in the face and slammed his hand on the dinner table. He said I was being ungrateful after everything they had done for me. I wanted to ask what exactly they had done, since I had paid my own way through everything, but I held my tongue. My mother just shook her head and looked at me with disappointment, like I had announced I was joining a cult instead of moving to a city for a job. "You will regret this," my father said. His voice was cold and steady. "You need us more than you think." At the time, I thought he was just being dramatic. I thought he was trying to scare me into staying. I had no idea those words were actually a warning of what was to come. I packed my belongings into my old Honda Civic and drove to Columbus with a heart full of hope. I had saved enough money to cover 3 months of rent for a small studio apartment. I had a polished resume and a degree from a good university. I was ready to start my life. I had no idea that my parents were already planning to destroy it before it even began. My first month in Columbus was exciting despite the uncertainty. I spent my days sending out job applications and my nights dreaming about my future career. I applied to 5 marketing agencies in that first month, carefully crafting each cover letter to match the company culture. I researched every business thoroughly. I prepared for interviews like my life depended on it, because in many ways it did. The responses came quickly, which I took as a good sign. 3 companies invited me for interviews within the first 2 weeks. I was thrilled. My preparation was paying off. The first interview was at a small but growing marketing agency downtown. The office was modern, with exposed brick walls and plants everywhere. The interviewer was a woman named Sandra, who ran the creative department. We talked for over an hour about marketing trends, social media strategies, and my vision for building brand awareness. She laughed at my jokes and nodded along as I explained my senior thesis project. When I left, she shook my hand warmly and said they would be in touch within a week. I floated home on a cloud of optimism. I was sure I had nailed it. I started imagining my first day at the office, picking out what I would wear, thinking about how I would introduce myself to my new coworkers. A week passed, then another. Finally, I received an email. Thank you for your interest in our company. After careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates. No explanation, no feedback, just a cold rejection. I told myself this was normal. Job hunting is competitive. Not every interview leads to an offer. I still had 2 more companies interested in me. The second interview was similar. Great conversation, positive body language from the interviewers, a tour of the office that made me feel like they were already welcoming me to the team. The rejection email came 5 days later. Same generic language, same lack of explanation. The third company was the strangest. The interview went incredibly well. The hiring manager told me I was exactly what they were looking for. He said he would call me by Friday with an offer. Friday came and went with no call. I sent a follow-up email on Monday. No response. I called on Wednesday. The receptionist said the position had been filled and hung up quickly. Something felt wrong. 3 excellent interviews, 3 rejections without any real reason. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was not as qualified as I thought. Maybe my interview skills needed work. Maybe my resume had a typo I had not noticed. I paid $50. I could not really afford to have a professional review my resume. The feedback was glowing. Strong formatting, excellent experience, impressive achievements. I practiced interviewing with my friend Megan from college. She said I was confident, articulate, and personable. She could not understand why I was not getting offers. I applied to 5 more companies in my second month. Same pattern. Great interviews followed by mysterious rejections. By now, I had been turned down by 8 companies, and my savings were starting to run dangerously low. One evening, after receiving my 8th rejection, I decided to do something I had never done before. I called the HR department of the company that had just rejected me and asked for feedback. I explained that I was trying to improve and would appreciate any insight into why I was not selected. The woman on the phone hesitated. She was quiet for a long moment before speaking. "I am sorry," she said slowly, "but we received some concerning information about you." My heart stopped. "What kind of information? I cannot discuss the details," she said. I could hear the discomfort in her voice. "I am really sorry. I hope you find what you are looking for." She hung up before I could ask anything else. I sat in my tiny apartment staring at the wall, trying to understand what had just happened. What concerning information could they possibly have about me? I had never been in trouble in my life. I had never even gotten a parking ticket. That night I could not sleep. Something was very wrong, and I had no idea what it was. But I was about to find out, and the truth would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. By my 3rd month in Columbus, I was desperate. I had applied to 12 companies and received nothing but rejections. My savings account showed a balance that made my stomach hurt every time I looked at it. I had no choice but to take a part-time job at a coffee shop to pay my rent while I continued my job search. Every morning, I woke up at 4:30 to open the shop. I made lattes and cappuccinos for people in business suits who were heading to the kinds of jobs I desperately wanted. I smiled and wished them a good day, while my heart ached with frustration and confusion. After my shifts, I would go home, shower off the smell of espresso, and send out more applications. The cycle felt endless. One evening, I finally broke down and called Megan. She had been my closest friend since freshman year of college, and now she worked as an HR coordinator at a large corporation in Cleveland. If anyone could help me figure out what was going wrong, it was her. I told her everything. The interviews that seemed to go perfectly, The rejections that made no sense, the strange comment about concerning information. Megan listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Faith, she said slowly, this does not add up. Your qualifications are excellent. You interview well. Something else is going on here, I know I said, but I have no idea what it could be. Megan promised to ask around. She had connections with other HR professionals across the state. If anyone had heard anything unusual about me, she would find out. 3 days later, she called me back. Her voice sounded strange, almost nervous. Faith, I need to tell you something, and you need to sit down. I sank onto my secondhand couch, gripping the phone tightly. What is it? One of my HR friends works at a marketing firm in Columbus, the same one that rejected you last month. She told me they received a phone call about you after your interview. A phone call from who? That is the thing, Megan said. The caller claimed to be a family friend, an old neighbor who knew you growing up. This person told them that you have a criminal record, that you were convicted of fraud and theft. The room started spinning. I could not breathe. That is impossible, I whispered. I have never been arrested. I have never even been accused of anything. I know Faith. That is why I am telling you. Someone is deliberately sabotaging you. Someone is calling these companies and lying about you. My mind raced through possibilities. A jealous classmate, a vindictive ex. But I had not dated anyone seriously. I had no enemies that I knew of. Who would do something so cruel? And then like a punch to the gut, a thought entered my mind. My father's voice echoed in my memory. You will regret this. You need us more than you think. No, they would not. They could not, Faith, Megan said. Are you still there? I need to check something, I said. I will call you back. I hung up and immediately ordered a professional background check on myself. The service cost $75 and promised results within 24 hours. That night, I did not sleep at all. The results arrived the next morning. Criminal record, none. Arrests, none. Court records, none. I was completely clean, just as I knew I would be. But someone was telling employers otherwise. I spent the rest of the day calling companies that had rejected me. Most refused to talk to me, but finally a sympathetic HR representative at a small agency agreed to share what she knew. A woman called us about 3 days after your interview, she said. She claimed to be a longtime friend of your family. She told us you had been convicted of financial fraud 2 years ago, and that you had a history of stealing from previous employers. Can you describe her voice? I asked, my hands trembling. She sounded older, maybe 50s or 60s. She had this concerned tone like she was doing us a favor by warning us. She said she felt obligated to tell us because she did not want us to get hurt. The description matched my mother perfectly. Patricia, who never stood up for me. Patricia, who always took my father's side. Patricia, who was apparently willing to destroy my future just to bring me back home. In that moment, something inside me shattered. The last remaining hope that my parents loved me unconditionally crumbled into dust. They were not worried about me. They were not trying to protect me. They were actively sabotaging me, methodically destroying every opportunity I had, all because I had dared to leave and live my own life. I drove the 2 hours back to my hometown on a cold November afternoon. The sky was gray and heavy with clouds that threatened snow. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. In my passenger seat was a folder containing evidence, my clean background check results, notes from my conversation with the HR representative, a timeline I had constructed showing the pattern of rejections. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, my childhood home looked different to me. The white picket fence that once seemed charming now felt like the bars of a cage. The cheerful welcome mat on the front porch seemed to mock me with its friendliness. I did not bother knocking. I walked straight in, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My parents were in the living room, my father in his favorite armchair watching television, my mother on the couch, knitting something in pale blue yarn. They looked up when I entered, and for just a moment I saw something flicker across my mother's face. Was it guilt, fear? It vanished too quickly for me to be sure. Faith, my father said, turning off the television. What are you doing here? I stood in the middle of the room, clutching my folder of evidence. I took a deep breath. Did you call the companies I applied to? I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. Did you tell them I have a criminal record? My father did not answer. He just looked at me with those cold blue eyes, the same eyes that had never shown me warmth or approval. My mother stopped knitting. Her hands froze mid-stitch. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. I could hear my own ragged breathing. I waited. Finally, my father spoke. We did what we had to do. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow. Even though I had suspected, even though I had prepared myself for this moment, hearing him admit it so casually was devastating. You called 15 companies, I said, my voice starting to shake. You told them I was a criminal. You destroyed 15 opportunities. We did it for your own good, my mother said, finally setting down her knitting. Her voice was infuriatingly calm. We wanted you to realize you cannot survive out there without us. We wanted you to come home. I stared at her in disbelief. You think lying about me being a felon is for my own good? You were being stubborn, my father said, standing up from his chair. He was a tall man, and in that moment he seemed to tower over me. We gave you everything, and you threw it in our faces by leaving. We had to show you the truth. The truth, I laughed bitterly. The truth is that you tracked my job applications somehow. The truth is that you called each company and told malicious lies about me. The truth is that you did not care if you ruined my entire career as long as you could control me. My mother had the audacity to look offended. We are your parents, she said. We know what is best for you. Parents protect their children, I shot back. Parents do not sabotage them. Do you have any idea what you put me through? I have been working at a coffee shop for minimum wage. I have been eating one meal a day to save money. I have cried myself to sleep, wondering what was wrong with me, why no one would hire me, what I did to deserve this. For the first time, I saw something like uncertainty cross my mother's face. But my father remained unmoved. If you had just come home when we told you to, none of this would have happened, he said. This is your own fault for being so stubborn. I looked around the room, searching for any sign of remorse, any hint that they understood the magnitude of what they had done. My eyes landed on the staircase where Kevin stood watching. He must have come down when he heard voices. He met my eyes for just a second, then looked away. He did not say a word in my defense. He just stood there silent like he always had been. How did you even know where I was applying? I asked, a new realization dawning on me. How did you find out which companies to call? My mother shifted uncomfortably. Your email, she admitted. We still have the password from when we helped you set it up in high school. We read your sent folder. The violation of privacy made me feel sick. They had been reading my emails for months, watching me struggle, knowing exactly why I was failing and enjoying their cruel game. I took one last look at my parents, these strangers who had raised me. And then I said the words I knew I could never take back. You have lost me forever, I said quietly. You did not do this because you love me. You did this because you want to control me. And I will never let you control me again. You are overreacting, my father said dismissively. Stop being dramatic. We are your family, I shook my head. Family does not do this. Family does not destroy each other. I walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. Goodbye, I said. And I mean that. I drove back to Columbus with tears streaming down my face, but somewhere beneath the pain, a spark of determination was igniting. They thought they could break me. They thought they could force me back under their control, but they had underestimated me. They had underestimated how strong I had become from surviving their neglect all those years. If they wanted a fight, I would give them one. The Monday after my confrontation with my parents, I walked into the office of a lawyer named Harold Patterson. He was in his mid-50s with gray hair at his temples and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. His office was modest but professional, lined with law books and framed certificates. I had found Harold through an online search for attorneys specializing in defamation cases. His reviews mentioned that he was thorough, compassionate, and relentless in pursuing justice for his clients. That was exactly what I needed. I sat across from his desk and told him everything. The job applications, the mysterious rejections, the phone calls my parents had made, the lies they had told. I showed him my evidence, the clean background check, the notes from HR representatives, the timeline I had constructed. Harold listened carefully, occasionally jotting down notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and removed his glasses to rub his eyes. In 25 years of practicing law, he said slowly, I have seen a lot of terrible things. Parents who abandon their children, siblings who cheat each other out of inheritances. But this, he shook his head. This is particularly cruel. Do I have a case? I asked. Harold nodded. You have a strong case, actually. What your parents did constitutes defamation, specifically slander, since they made false statements verbally. It also qualifies as tortious interference with prospective business relations. They deliberately and maliciously interfered with your employment opportunities by spreading lies. What does that mean in practical terms? It means you can sue them in civil court, Harold explained. You can seek damages for lost income, emotional distress, and punitive damages to punish them for their behavior. Additionally, he added what they did could potentially be considered wire fraud, since they used telephone lines to perpetrate their scheme. You could report them to the police. I sat with this information for a moment. The thought of taking my parents to court, of potentially having them face criminal charges, was overwhelming. A year ago, I would have thought such an idea was unthinkable. But a year ago, I would also have thought my parents were incapable of deliberately destroying my career. What would you recommend? I asked. Harold considered the question carefully. I would start by gathering more documentation, contact every company you applied to, explain the situation professionally, and request written confirmation of any calls they received about you. You should also try to obtain phone records showing calls from your parents' number to these companies. He paused. Then we send them a cease and desist letter. It puts them on notice that their actions are illegal and demands they stop immediately. It also opens the door to settlement negotiations. And if they do not settle, then we take them to court, Harold said simply. And based on what you have told me we would win, I spent the next 2 weeks following Harold's advice. I contacted all 15 companies that had rejected me, sending carefully worded emails explaining that I had recently discovered someone had been calling employers and making false claims about my criminal history. I assured them that I had no criminal record whatsoever and provided a copy of my official background check as proof. The responses varied. Some companies ignored my emails entirely. Others sent brief acknowledgments but declined to provide documentation. But 11 companies came through. They sent me written statements confirming they had received phone calls about me. Several included detailed notes, the date and time of the calls, the gender and approximate age of the caller, and the specific allegations made. The picture that emerged was damning. Over a 6-month period, my parents had systematically contacted every company I applied to. Sometimes my mother made the calls, sometimes my father. They posed as concerned neighbors, former coworkers, and family friends. The lies they told were remarkably consistent. I had been convicted of fraud. I had stolen from previous employers. I was currently under investigation for embezzlement. I had a history of violent behavior. Reading these accounts made me physically ill. My own parents had painted me as a dangerous criminal. They had destroyed my reputation with 15 different companies, potentially blacklisting me from an entire industry. And they had done it all while knowing I was struggling, while watching me take a minimum wage job just to survive. The final piece of evidence came from an unexpected source. My aunt, my mother's sister, called me out of the blue one evening. We had never been particularly close, but she had heard about the conflict from Kevin and wanted to reach out. I know what my sister did to you, Aunt Linda said, and I think it is disgusting. I told Patricia she was going to lose you forever, but she would not listen. Thank you for saying that, I said. It means a lot. There is something else, Linda continued. I have a friend who works at the phone company. She looked into your family plan records for me. She found calls from your parents' phone to all those companies right around the dates you mentioned. Can you get me copies of those records? I asked, my pulse quickening. I already have them, Linda said. I am emailing them to you right now. The phone records were the final nail in the coffin. They showed calls from my parents' landline to each of the 15 companies, all within days of my applications. The evidence was irrefutable. A week later, Harold sent the cease and desist letter. It was firm and unequivocal, demanding that my parents immediately stop all contact with my current and future employers, threatening civil litigation and criminal referrals if they continued. It also demanded compensation for the damages I had suffered. My parents' response came not through their lawyer, but through a furious phone call from my father. "You ungrateful brat," he shouted. "After everything we did for you, you hire a lawyer against your own family. You are no daughter of mine." I hung up without responding. If they wanted to communicate with me, they could do it through proper legal channels. I was done being manipulated. I was done being controlled. This time, I was the one with power, and I intended to use it. The cease and desist letter sent shockwaves through my family. For the first time in their lives, my parents faced real consequences for their actions. They hired a lawyer of their own, an old friend of my father's from his country club. The legal maneuvering began. Kevin called me 3 days after my parents received the letter. His voice was agitated, in a way I had never heard before. "Faith, you need to stop this," he said. "Mom and Dad are falling apart. Dad has not slept in days. Mom cries constantly. Is that what you want?" "What I want," I said calmly, "is for them to face consequences for what they did. They sabotaged my career. Kevin, they destroyed 15 job opportunities by lying about me having a criminal record. Do you understand how serious that is? They made a mistake," Kevin argued. "Parents are not perfect. You need to forgive them and move on." "A mistake is forgetting a birthday," I replied. "A mistake is saying something hurtful in anger. What they did was deliberate, systematic, and malicious. They spent months tracking my applications and calling each company to spread lies about me. That is not a mistake. That is a campaign of destruction." Kevin sighed heavily. "You are tearing this family apart." "No, Kevin. They tore this family apart. I am just refusing to pretend it did not happen." He hung up without saying goodbye. I was not surprised. Kevin had never defended me when we were children. Why would he start now? A week later, something interesting happened. I received a call from a reporter at the local newspaper in my hometown. Apparently, word had gotten out about the lawsuit, and she wanted to do a story on it. I declined the interview, but the damage to my parents' reputation was already done. In a small town where everyone knows everyone, rumors spread fast. My father's colleagues at the insurance company started asking questions. My mother's friends from church whispered behind her back. For people who cared so much about appearances, this must have been torture. The real victory came 2 weeks later. My parents' lawyer contacted Harold to propose a settlement. They wanted to end this quietly, without a trial, without any more public attention. Their offer, $30,000 and a promise to never contact my employers again. Harold called me with the news. "It is a decent offer," he said. "But given the evidence we have, I think we can do better." "What are your priorities here?" I thought about it carefully. The money mattered, of course. I had spent months struggling financially because of what they did. But there was something else I wanted even more. "I want them to admit what they did," I said, "in writing. And I want them to send letters to all 15 companies retracting their lies. I want my reputation restored." Harold smiled. "That is exactly what I was hoping you would say. I will make the counteroffer." The negotiations went back and forth for another month. My parents resisted the idea of written admissions. Their lawyer argued that it would expose them to additional liability, but Harold was relentless. He filed the official lawsuit papers with the court, which created a public record that anyone could access. He made it clear that if this went to trial, everything would become public, including the phone records, the statements from HR representatives, and the full extent of their deception. Finally, they caved. The settlement terms were as follows. My parents would pay me $50,000 in damages. They would sign a written statement admitting that they had made false claims about my criminal history to prospective employers. They would send individual letters to all 15 companies I had applied to, retracting their lies and confirming that I had no criminal record whatsoever. And they would agree to a permanent no-contact order regarding any of my current or future employment. The day I signed the settlement agreement, I felt something I had not felt in almost a year. Peace. It was not just about winning. It was about standing up for myself, about refusing to accept abuse just because it came from family. For the first time in my life, I had demanded respect, and I had gotten it. But the best part was still to come. 3 of the 15 companies reached out to me after receiving my parents' retraction letters. They apologized for the confusion and invited me to reapply for positions. One of them was a mid-sized marketing agency that I had been particularly excited about during my initial job search. They had an opening for a marketing specialist, and they wanted to interview me. I walked into that interview with my head held high. I told them about my experience, my qualifications, and my passion for marketing. I did not mention my parents or the lawsuit. I did not need to. My credentials spoke for themselves. A week later, I received a phone call offering me the job. The salary was better than anything I had imagined when I first moved to Columbus. It came with benefits, vacation time, and a clear path for advancement. I accepted immediately. The first year after everything settled was harder than I expected. I had won the legal battle, but the emotional wounds took longer to heal. Some nights I would lie awake thinking about my parents, wondering if they ever truly loved me, or if I was always just an object to control. The questions haunted me even when I tried to push them away. I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Sarah Whitfield, a gentle woman in her early 40s who specialized in family trauma. In our sessions, she helped me understand that what my parents did had nothing to do with my worth as a person. Children of controlling parents often internalize the message that they are only valuable when they are obedient, she explained during one of our early sessions. But that is a lie. Your value is inherent. You do not have to earn love by sacrificing yourself. She also helped me recognize patterns I had never noticed before. The way I always sought approval from authority figures. The way I struggled to trust my own judgment. The way I expected rejection, even when I had done nothing wrong. These were all scars from growing up in a household where my needs were always secondary to my parents' desires. Slowly, I began to heal. I stopped checking my email obsessively expecting bad news. I stopped flinching when my phone rang, afraid it might be my parents with some new manipulation. I started to believe that I deserved good things, not because I had earned them, but simply because I existed. My career flourished in ways I had never imagined. Within a year of starting at the marketing agency, I was promoted to senior marketing specialist. My boss praised my creativity and work ethic. My colleagues became genuine friends. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who appreciated me for who I was not, for what I could give them. I moved out of my cramped studio apartment and into a bright, spacious one-bedroom in a nicer part of the city. I decorated it with plants and art and comfortable furniture. Every morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my windows, and I felt grateful to be exactly where I was. I built what Dr. Whitfield called a chosen family. Megan remained one of my closest friends, and we talked on the phone at least once a week. I made new friends at work and in my apartment building. I started dating someone kind and respectful, a man named James, who treated me like a partner rather than a possession. As for my biological family, I maintained my distance. My parents and I had not spoken since the settlement. Kevin texted me occasionally awkward messages asking how I was doing, but I kept my responses brief. Aunt Linda and I grew closer. She was the only relative who had stood by me, and I valued her support deeply. 2 years after the settlement, I was promoted again, this time to senior marketing manager. At 28 years old, I was overseeing a team of 6 people and managing accounts worth millions of dollars. When I thought about where I had been just 2 years earlier making lattes for minimum wage, while wondering what was wrong with me, it felt like a lifetime ago. The $50,000 from the settlement sat in a savings account. I did not need it for daily expenses anymore, so I used it to start a small emergency fund and donated part of it to a charity that helped young adults escape abusive family situations. It felt right to turn something painful into something meaningful. If you are still with me, I want to thank you for listening to my story. I know it was long. I know parts of it were painful to hear, but I shared it because I believe someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe you are struggling with a family that does not support you. Maybe you have parents who manipulate and control you, who make you feel like you are never good enough. Maybe you are wondering if you deserve better, or if you should just accept the way things are. Let me tell you what I wish someone had told me years ago. You deserve better. You are not obligated to accept abuse just because it comes from people who share your DNA. Family is not just about blood. It is about love, respect, and support. If the people who raised you cannot provide those things, you have every right to seek them elsewhere. Setting boundaries is not selfish. Demanding respect is not ungrateful. Walking away from toxic relationships is not abandonment. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself. I learned that karma does not always arrive on its own. Sometimes you have to create your own justice. My parents thought they could control me, but their actions ended up costing them $50,000, their reputation in our small town, and their daughter. Was it worth it? I doubt they would say yes. As for me, I found something more valuable than their approval. I found my own strength. I found my voice. I found people who love me without conditions. And I found a career that fulfills me in ways I never imagined possible. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to stand up to someone who was supposed to love you? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself? I would love to hear your stories in the comments. We can support each other because none of us should have to face these struggles alone. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories about resilience, healing, and finding your way through difficult times. Thank you for being here with me today. Whatever challenges you are facing right now, I hope you know that you are stronger than you realize. You have the power to create the life you deserve. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next story.